All right, let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Cherie Copeland Terrell. I serve as the coordinator for leadership programs at the University of Memphis. So seeing some familiar faces and names on this call, so welcome again. For those who are joining me for the first time, welcome to Women in Leadership. This panel is focused on transportation, and we have an exciting um, panelists for y'all today who are looking to share their experiences with you, engage in any questions that you may have. So throughout the presentation, if you, or throughout the conversation, I'll say, because this will definitely be, a conversation. If you have any questions for the panelists, please go ahead and drop them in the chat and I will make sure to get to your questions. You can do it in the public chat or you can just message me directly. Either or works for me. Just definitely want to make sure we take the time to answer any questions you may have. So we are going to go ahead and just jump in because we only have an hour together. So I'm going to ask the panelists to just do a brief introduction. So including your name, your company, and also your title. And then we'll just go in deeper from there.
My name is Carly Crawford. My title is Director of HR and Talent Management, and I'm with the PFS companies, all three of them.
I'm Anna Dunavant. I am an HR coordinator, and I am with PFS Transportation.
I'm Paige Alexander, and I'm with Truxio Software, which is a part of PFS Transportation. And I'm a software sales account executive.
And my name is Krista Crabtree. I'm a sales account executive with Paladin Freight Solutions.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much for your introductions. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. Got everyone? Great. Okay, so my next question. So we talked a little bit about your company. You gave us a brief overview of what your company is. Can y'all go into what your company does? So you said Truxio, hopefully I didn't mispronounce that, PFS, and Paladin. So y'all, if someone wants to talk more about what those companies specifically do, and go a little bit about the history of the companies, that would be great for those who are listening in today.
I can give a little bit of history about the company and talk about the three service lines, and then everybody else can add in their comments as well. So our first service line was Paladin Freight Solutions, and that was started in the heart of the recession in 2008. Our first office was a Starbucks. Our CEO was dialing for dollars out of a Starbucks. And what Paladin Freight Solutions does is we are a third-party logistics company. So companies that have goods that need to be shipped, they usually don't have in-house transportation departments, so they're outsourcing that service. So we're not selling a product there, we're selling ourselves. So we are the middleman between that company that has freight that needs to be moved and our nationwide network of carriers. So our freight brokers are reaching out to customers, asking them for the opportunity to take care of their transportation needs. And when they do get that opportunity, they're finding a carrier that can move that load for them. And then they're babysitting that load from A to Z. And then when they're updating the customer, letting them know the status of the delivery, just trying to give them outstanding customer service. And when we're done with that transaction, we ask that customer, hey, let me do that again. So that's basically what we're doing over and over again on the 3PL side. The next company we started was PFS Transportation. That's an intermodal drayage company. So for people that are unfamiliar with intermodal drayage, when you see trains going down the tracks, they have those containers on them. And that's what PFS Transportation is dealing with, those containers. So those containers are coming across the ocean from China, India, the Middle East. And when they get to the States, they're getting loaded onto trains and then going to wherever their destination is. So we have locations in Dallas and a location in Memphis, Tennessee. This is our headquarters. And so our drivers are taking those containers, delivering them to customers regionally. So we're not over the road they're delivering within a 300-mile radius of Memphis and Dallas, and then they're returning those containers to the rail. So we're dealing with imports and exports. So we're picking up loaded containers if they're imports and delivering them to the customer, or we may be picking up an empty container, getting it loaded at the customer with product, and then taking it back to the rail to be exported. So that's intermodal drayage in a nutshell. Our third service line is our software company. That's Truxio, and we launched that last year. And what Truxio does is it's a free dispatch software, and it's geared towards small trucking companies. So that's a little bit about our 3 service lines.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that overview. I know that was helpful for me because I don't know anything about the transportation field. I know some of the students on here probably don't either. So if y'all can talk to us a little bit more about your field, what roles are available within your field? Tell us a little bit more about what you specifically do, just to, keep us all engaged with this conversation for sure.
I'll go first. I'm with the Truxio part of the company. And basically, I mean, like Carly said, it's a software. Basically, it just makes the lives of trucking companies and carriers easier on a day-to-day basis. It just keeps everything under one platform and organized. It just helps, eliminate the frustration from the drivers and the actual office staff and also their customers. It can do customer invoicing, driver settlements, loads, dispatching, and track and trace. So it does all of that like in one entity, which a lot of the carriers right now, they're just, using like Excel spreadsheets, or a lot of them are old school and they use paper, just manual paperwork. So this basically, it just makes their lives tons easier. And once they all get on it, they're amazed. They love it.
Okay, and I'm Krista. So I am a sales account executive, but to make things easier, I'm a broker. Basically, I'm a liaison between the shipper or the customer and the carrier. So what do? I build relationships with customers. I pair those customers with freight carriers that are in our system, and then I book the order. So like Carly said earlier, I handle everything from A to Z. I get a tender from the customer. I find a carrier. I book the load. I make sure the load is picked up. And I do a little track and trace, making sure the load's picked up on time and delivered on time. And then once I'm done with that, going back to the customer again, building more rapport relationships so that I can do that on a constant basis.
So I am doing HR on the PFS Transportation side. So I am doing a lot of driver recruitment. I try to maintain relationships with all of our drivers that we previously had, and kind of reaching out to drivers to see if they would want to come on with us. So I handle all of their paperwork up until their orientation. And then they're hired. And so that's kind of my main responsibility within the company.
With my role, I've been with the company 10 years this December. So I wear multiple hats, but my primary focus is the HR department. So we're working on planning, developing, and coordinating all the HR activities, policies, and the HR staff. I also coordinate with other senior leaders to make sure what we're doing in HR aligns with our company goals. That's going to include payroll, benefits, recruiting, HR compliance, and other HR programs.
Great. Thank y'all so much for delving into like a little bit more about your role and what you do at your company. So I have a question for Krista specifically. So you're saying how you handle everything from A to Z, you all about customer service. So can you talk a little bit about how you effectively manage large projects and delegate tasks?
Yeah, absolutely. So recently I landed a new customer, and that customer does a ton of shipments. Basically, it took me 9-12 months to land this customer. One of the things that, goes into building a relationship with a customer is constantly reaching out. I think it's really important to note, being a woman in transportation, it's mostly a male driven, type of work. So you have to be firm. You have to, network with people. You have to own the market and basically know what you're talking about. As women, you know, um, in a male dominant, situation, you got to own the market because you're talking to a lot of men on a daily basis. So large projects, got to stay organized. Very important, staying organized. Be prepared. You have 100 loads coming this week. You have to know when to delegate things and when to have your team support you. Um, you know, um, you got to take your task and break it down and learn how to, delegate a lot of things, because there's a lot that goes into, it's not just the load picking up and the load delivering, but it's, okay, well, what if this driver has an accident on the way or a tire blows? You've got to go into delegating things and making sure that you're prepared for the task at hand. Because if you're not prepared and you're not organized, then you're doomed to fail, unfortunately.
Yes.
Hopefully that explains a little bit about a bigger task. Is, definitely organization is the best thing, and being prepared and thinking big picture. Women are better at that than men are. Let's think big picture, and making sure those little nitty gritty things are taken care of.
Right. And I love your perspective so much, because with my leadership students, leadership scholars, we're always talking about, knowing how to delegate. Like, you can't take it on. A lot of them, even me, are very type A, and we're going to do it all. But
Right.
We have to learn that we can't do it all, and we have to trust our team, trust that folks are going to do their job. But I think you also spoke on the importance of knowing your stuff. So being resourceful. If you don't know the answer, look for the answer, or like go to the person who has the answer and things like that. Those are important skills that college students need to learn early on to be successful in their future career paths. So I definitely appreciate your
Yeah, well, and to just a little bit on that, knowing that everybody has a personality trait, and learning, whether you're picking up the phone or you're talking to somebody in person, you need to know, okay, well, they're either this type of personality or this type of personality, and really got to build that rapport to know, okay, well, either they want a straight answer or they want statistically to know how to do things. So it's really important that you break it down and do personality traits, because if you don't, then you're going to be talking to the person in the wrong way.
Right. And that's something we do focus on: leadership traits, personality traits, because you kind of have to be adaptable. We all have our own communication style, leadership style, but the way that you speak to Anna may not be the same way that you speak with Paige, because they're two different people, right? But these are all skills that folks learn over time. So my next question is for Paige. Krista kind of talked about working in a male dominant arena. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a female salesperson pitching to trucking companies?
Yeah, actually, my experience has been very positive. It's kind of funny because I never have even thought of myself as being different, because I think like I'll just talk to them just like I would anybody else. I'm just real comfortable with talking to people, and it never really occurred to me that I was like a woman talking to the men trucking company. But But yeah, I mean, you just have to have confidence, and definitely, like Krista was saying, you definitely have to have knowledge of what you're trying to, in my instance, sell them. Because if you don't, I mean, then, that just lacks credibility for, for us and for what I'm trying to sell. But yeah, I mean, you just have to have definite knowledge and confidence. I just think definitely just be yourself. Don't be intimidated just because they're men. And, I mean, I believe that we can totally do everything that they can, or better. And I mean, I've actually talked to several women owners of trucking carriers as well. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that if you are educated on what, on what you're trying to sell them, and if you treat them with respect and knowledge, it's just kind of a win-win situation.
Great. Thank you so much for your perspective. So my next question is for Anna. If I'm correct, Anna, you do hold a bachelor's degree, correct?
Bachelor's?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit, we have college students on here. So tell us a little bit about what your college experience was like, where you went, what your major was. Then I'll ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to University of Arkansas all 4 years, and I majored in communications with a minor in business. And it was a great experience, a lot of learning for sure of, communications is such a wide field. It's hard to know what you want to do. So I did internships each summer and kind of learned a little bit about a corporate environment, and I learned a lot about HR, and I knew that's something that I wanted to get into just because I really liked people interaction, and recruiting sounded really cool to me. So that's how I kind of knew graduating, that's the role I wanted to get into.
Great. So you kind of gone through college, you communication broad, like you said, kind of found a position that you were interested in. So what was most important to you when selecting a company after receiving your bachelor's degree? So what did that look like for you, getting from where you were to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what I was wanting in a company was a place that I could grow, not only in my career path, but also that I knew like would invest time in me just to like help me understand the transportation business or whatever business I was going to get into. Coming into this role, I didn't know much about transportation at all. And they've done such a great job just investing in me and teaching me all the different aspects of it. And I may not be an expert yet, but I definitely know a lot more than I did starting off. So that's just something that I was really looking for, was a place that I can grow, not only in my career path, but also in my knowledge as well.
Great. Thank you so much for that response. I find with college students, and sometimes they also find that there's a lot of investment that is people who invest in them throughout their college experience, especially those who get really involved on campus. Maybe they join a fraternity or sorority. Maybe there's someone who work on college campuses, but when they leave, it's kind of like that weird spot of like, so what do I do now? So I love the fact that your company really invests in your growth, because growth doesn't stop after high school, doesn't stop after college, or whatever type of further education someone pursues. It should continue within the work field. Like even now, like as a professional, we're in two different fields, but I'm always looking for ways to continue to grow. And like my director's always pushing me, like, go to this conference, because we're really big into conferences. Go to this conference, do this presentation. So I really do love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So my next question is for Carly. So Carly, you are top dog, director of HR, talent management, and all of that. So tell us, how did you move into a leadership role in your company? How did you get where you are today?
Okay, so I've actually held 5 different positions at the company over the last 10 years. So when I entered into the company, I held a billing position for the intermodal drayage side, the PFS Transportation side. Not too long after that, I had a good rapport with customers, and so I was given the opportunity to take on a customer engagement role. So that was just basically getting to know the customers better. There was an opportunity shortly after that for an executive assistant role to directly support the CEO. So I took that position on, and it was really exciting because I got to learn a lot more about the company. I was exposed to more than just the PFS Transportation side. Around 2016, there was an opportunity, and it was a management role. It was an opportunity to manage it was a two-man team on the 3PL side, Paladin Freight Solutions. And although I had been exposed to both service lines as the assistant, I really didn't have a lot of hands-on experience with the 3PL. So I jumped at the opportunity to take that management role so that I could learn about the freight brokerage, the 3PL, and then also just to have the opportunity to manage people and push myself outside my comfort zone. Then I would say, I think 2018, I had the opportunity to step into the director of HR. So that has been how my career has progressed and how I stepped into leadership here.
Great, thank you. I think that's also something that students should be looking for also as they graduate, the opportunity to move up within a company, especially if it's a company you love, like you said, 5 positions. So clearly the company's doing something right, that you are like definitely continuing to be able to move up, and you've devoted so much time to your company. And that's what I want ultimately for my college students, to find that first company. Maybe it's a second company after graduation that is investing in them, very similar to what Anna said, but also giving them the opportunity to move up within the company. So thank you. So I do want to shout out Paige and throw this next question to Paige, because according to my records, you are a University of Memphis alumni. Is that correct?
I am. Go Tigers.
Yes, we love a fellow Tiger on the call. So tell us a little bit about your experience while at the University of Memphis. If which campus experience or experiences were formative in your career?
Okay, well, I graduated with a degree in education. So I student taught. And so when I student taught, I think that honestly was the first time it kind of, I mean, I didn't know it at the time because I was still, didn't know what I was going to be doing, but it kind of helped me just get around and used to people. Granted, they were kids, but kids are your worst critics. They're very critical. They can, so I think that honestly, that really helped me with my very first experience of being around people and being around kids and kind of learning of like how to talk to people and just being in front of, people. And like I said, kids are a lot scarier than adults are because they're so honest. So I think that originally that experience really helped me just kind of get to where I am today and get, to where I'm comfortable talking to people and not having to be scared or be worried about being in front of people with sales presentations and things like that.
Great, thank you. We're going to kind of get into we kind of went into the large picture about what y'all do now, what your experience has been like within your company. We're going to shift gears and start talking a little bit about leadership development. So I definitely want Carly to start us off by telling us a little bit about your biggest leadership failure and victory.
I'll go first. So probably the biggest failure would be when I first stepped into that first management role. I was actually promoted above a coworker that I was good friends with. So that was a really difficult position. And when you step into your first leadership role, you're going to make all the rookie mistakes. And what's important is that you learn from those mistakes and learn how to apply them in the future. So my biggest learning lesson from that was you have to be direct with people. You have to speak straight. And that's the fair thing to do for them is to be honest and upfront. And that was the biggest lesson I learned. And that was difficult because that person was my friend. I would say the biggest success was the opportunity at the beginning of the year before we had the lockdowns because of COVID. As a lead, I got to meet with the other leaders of the company and come up with an emergency plan. Our first priority was the safety of our employees. So we implemented safeguards around the office, checklists in the event anyone was to be diagnosed with COVID, entry requirements, all those things to make sure that the staff was safe. After that, we went through a cost-cutting measure because the most important thing for us was stability for our PFS family. So once we got through that, I was happy to say that we didn't have any furloughs and we didn't lay off one person. So that's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of as a leader here.
Great, thank you. Did anyone else want to chime in on their biggest, failure or victory within their role, within their leadership role? And this could be a learning curve that was disastrous because I know when starting a new job, I always tell my students trial and error. Trial and error will happen. It's really about how you recover from it. So I've been that person that has tried to mail merge, didn't go out well. So like how do you recover from things like that are very important to your development, especially when working in a team environment.
I guess I can speak on that. Not really much of a leadership role, but like how I learned to become a leader in my role was since I was new and everything, I was able to kind of show up and like learn. And yes, there was plenty of trial and error. And just what I learned from that was, you make a mistake and then you correct it the next time and hopefully it won't happen again. But what a positive thing is from mistakes is that you learn so much. So the things that I messed up on, I learned more about the company and more about my position in the company. And that's helped me to where I am today in my role. So it is definitely a lot of trial and error, but it's definitely a learning curve as well.
Yes.
And this checklist for drivers to get them just to the orientation phase is about 10 pages long?
Yeah.
So there's lots of detailed steps with that position. So
yeah, I love that. Especially Anna, you're speaking as someone in an entry level position. A lot of our students come in freshmen, make all the mistakes. It's fine, you'll recover. But like those who are juniors and seniors who are looking at internships, looking at graduating and starting that first job, I think it's helpful for them to hear that like you're gonna mess up. Like believe that you're gonna mess up. I always tell my students the biggest thing is to not shut down. Because if you make a mistake and you just go into your corner and you're just like out for the count, everyone is watching you and seeing how you recover from that mistake. I always tell my students, I would rather you own up to it. Say, you're right, I didn't send that email, or I didn't communicate with that person. I apologize. I will do better next time. So I really love that you spoke on that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't expect you to be perfect either. So they know you're new and it's fine.
And then another thing, talking about trial and error, is when you do mess up, ask the why. We talk about that a lot. Yeah. So you have a well-rounded understanding of why your company is doing things a certain way, and that's going to help you understand how to do your job better or how to do that particular task better.
Exactly. I think if you understand the why a little bit, you can kind of understand like how many people, your mistake possibly may have backed up and why your supervisor's like, all right, now I'm going to show you how to do it again. We're going to correct it. We're going to be great. It's okay. Learning curve, all of that. But let me tell you more about the company and our expectations and things like that. All those sometimes a hard conversation because we're not going to get too much into feedback today and receiving, constructive feedback, but constructive feedback can sometimes be hard, even though it can be sandwiched really nice. I can tell you, you're awesome, you're doing great, fix this, and then you're awesome, you're great. So like validating you, but also giving you some criticism that's helpful, that can still be difficult to hear, especially as an entry level person, even someone who is mid management or like higher management. Everyone usually answers to somebody, and we're all just trying to do the best that we can do. So definitely appreciate y'all's perspectives on that. Krista, did you have something you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, I can contribute as well. I'm not in a leadership role, but I am in a big hole in the back with a lot of boys. So I am one of the only girls that is back there. And so when I first started, trying to get customers and things like that, you can get so frustrated with people telling you no 100 times a day. And the great thing is the boys actually boosted my morale. And it's like, okay, let me see how many more no's I can turn into a yes. And so it's not really like a failure, but, confidence. You've got to have a lot of confidence. I go back and say, know what you're talking about, because your customers, even your carriers are going to pick up on the fact that you don't know what you're talking about. And that's part of an entry level thing. I've been in sales for 10 years, but I knew nothing about transportation. And so I had to fail to know what I needed to say to win customers, to win carriers. Just don't let it get you down and keep going. Don't be afraid of that no. Make that no. I try to tell people all the time, make that no something positive, because you can turn a no into a yes. You can't turn a yes into something else. A yes is a yes. That's easy. My favorite are no's. So I love turning no's into yeses and finding victory in that.
Wow, thank you for that perspective. Because I'm definitely someone that's very competitive at heart. So like no's really shake me up for a minute. And then I'm scrambling trying to figure out how I can, improve or whatnot. So I think that self-motivation, that confidence that you spoke on is a skill that takes time to develop, right?
Right.
You said that you've had the experience, of hearing those, being in sales and things like that, and you also work with people. Like customer service and things like that is just difficult work. um, so I really do appreciate your perspective, because we can't always get a yes. It's really about, once again, how we recover from you know hearing that no, because we
Yeah.
can't.
You just got to get into the right mindset of it. Even if someone tells you no, that's what I was saying, is don't let that no be a no in your brain. Let that no be, oh, I could turn this into something, turn it into a positive. And it's just one of the things, start out new and you're like, oh my gosh, this person's talking to me on the phone, they're very brute. But if you keep calling and keep calling, I mean, I spent 16 months on an account before. Keep calling, keep showing why you are the right person, why you are the right fit. That no will turn into a yes. So don't let the no's get you down.
Thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about mentorship. So in my history, and even with some college students on the call, there are some great mentors that are investing in their growth, and just really helping them throughout their time in college. Even in high school, we had our favorite teachers. Mine was my English teacher. Favorite teachers that just pushed us along and motivated us. So my next question is, what mentors have assisted you in your development? Have they been women identified mentors? And I want to start with Krista.
All right. This is going to sound really cliche, but my dad was my mentor. And let me give you the reason why. My dad came from a poor family, and he went to college and went through all the hoops and eventually owned his own business as a food broker. And so I really got to see, even growing up, him molding the company that he had for 30 plus years. I got the opportunity to go work for him. That was not an easy thing being the boss's daughter. There was a lot of critic on me, but he really mentored me. Like I said, networking is so important. There's a lot of networking events out there, personality traits, whatever, just kind of showing me the realms and how to talk to somebody, how to, do your business. One of the big things he told me is you don't have to sell on your first call. And as a salesperson, I was like, what? What do you mean? My job is to sell something. And he's like, no, if someone calls you, you don't want to listen to what they want to sell. You want, them to ask about you. So there's a lot of things that he taught me, to just really build who I am today, have confidence, know that I don't have to sell on the first time. I can build that rapport. I can show that, I'm the person that they need, because I'm not selling a product in transportation. I'm selling myself. And as salespeople, we can be all about us and never ask about the customer. So those are some of the things that my dad just really taught me and mentored me to be the person that I am today.
Great, thank you for that. Does anyone else want to chime in on some mentors that invested in them, who have helped you get to the point that where you are today, especially if they are female identified mentors? That would be awesome.
I have one. Actually, my very first job in the sales role, my very first job was my manager. Her name was Jessie. And she was very strong and very confident, but she had a heart and she was compassionate at the same time. So she really cared about her leadership, but she cared about us, her employees, as individuals at the same time. So I think that kind of helped, build a lot of respect for her. And because she knew that we were actually people too. So it kind of built a lot of respect for her, and she was just very confident, and just was very just confident in her role as a woman and as a sales role, and she kind of like portrayed that towards us as well. So I think the main thing definitely is confidence and just being yourself. And everybody's going to fail. I know when I very first started Truxio, I have never been in the transportation business either, like ever. And so luckily, thank goodness, the CEO and I had, trainers that helped me learn everything that I know today. And I was bad. I didn't know anything about it. And thank goodness, they were patient and helped me and trained me. And now I'm training other people how to use it. So yeah, so you just have to be confident and just be secure in who you are and just have the knowledge to do it. And that's kind of what Jessie taught me from my first job, is kind of starting out.
Thank you for that. Anna, Carly, did y'all want to chime in or want us to keep trucking forward?
I guess I can say one of my biggest mentors was my business development teacher in college. Everybody told me, they were like, build a relationship with your teachers, and like you hear that all the time. And I just kind of floated through college, like, yeah, I would get to know them, but I never like really tried to build a relationship. And then my business development teacher, it was a class of 9 people, and he really just like prepared me for what was going to be out of college and what it was going to be like out of college. And he was able to prepare me well, and then also give me a lot of advice that he went through, that he was like, here are my mistakes, this is how I learned from them, here's how you can learn from them. So really building relationships with your teachers is so important. And unfortunately I learned that in my senior year. But yeah, he was a great mentor for sure.
For my first role that was not retail or service, I was recruited by a woman to go into an outside sales position. And so she gave me the confidence and helped to push me outside my comfort zone and taught me how to talk with business owners, and that was definitely a difficult thing to start doing. But she definitely gave me that confidence. She would say, you got to fake it till you make it, honey. And I even still carry some of that with me forward in my career here, especially when I started in my management position, because managing humans, managing people, it can be difficult because you're dealing with all different kinds of personalities. And if you don't have those management skills already, it's difficult to know the right things to say in those situations. But my CEO has always had an open door policy, and I would just go in and pick his brain if I had a situation I wasn't sure of, and I would take good notes, and I would try to be prepared as possible to walk into that situation and face that situation.
Thank you all so much for your perspective. I think a question I want to ask y'all just off the top of my head. Last week in my class with some of my leadership students, we talked about gender and leadership. So we talked about some, stereotypes that exist for male leadership and female leadership and things like that. So a lot of y'all have talked about your mentors. Some have had female identified mentors, some have like not. When it comes to you and your own leadership style, sometimes women are seen as leaders who, are the emotional ones, are very understanding, very flexible, very nurturing. Are those stereotypes that you have encountered within your role? If so, like, how have you dealt with that? So for example, maybe, you had to give someone a hard deadline after they told you all about what's going on in their life and why they missed the deadline. And you have to really be that person because like, what your company expects of you and things like that. How have y'all navigated those situations if you have encountered them?
I think you just have to be maybe unapologetic. I don't know if that's the right word, but don't make yourself feel guilty for having to be direct and speaking up about something just because maybe, you're a woman and you shouldn't be so assertive. That's definitely something I've done even in the past. Like I can't believe I was that harsh. I mean, sometimes situations call for being harsh and being assertive, and you just have to, like I said, don't apologize for it. And as long as you're doing the right thing, that's what matters.
Thank you for that perspective. I think it kind of goes back to, I think you said earlier, you spoke about company values and things like that. So like, if, I miss a deadline that my director gives me, it has like a domino effect almost. So like, it's almost helping people see the big picture when they only see the small picture because, there's like a layer or a few layers between, who they come in direct contact with and who you come in direct contact with. So definitely something that we all deal with regardless in our role, even if, we're dealing with coworkers or colleagues and speaking laterally to them, being like, you're my colleague, but you kind of missed the deadline on something. And now people are asking me about it. But, so like all of that does impact the work that we do and impacts the how we are seen to others. It might even impact like, our promotional levels and things like that, because folks forget, but like folks also remember, so like everything that you do in your field is very important for you to stay top notch on. But like we said earlier, mistakes happen. There's a learning curve for sure, but just making sure that you're always doing the right thing. So like tomorrow in class, I'm talking about ethics with my students. So how are you being ethical in all the decisions that you're making? So I definitely appreciate your point of view. So I have two more questions. I know we have 10 minutes left. So folks on the call, if you do have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. You can also message me directly and I will ask your question for you. If you don't want to type your question into the chat box, you can always say, hey, can I come off mute and ask my question? I definitely understand that too, because sometimes we just got to vocalize our questions because it's just too much to type out. But my next question for the panelists, anyone can answer. What advice would you give to college students who are developing their leadership skills? So maybe there's a freshman on a call who's new to the whole college scene of this freedom away from parents. What advice do you have for them? Or maybe, they're a senior, and, Anna, you probably remember being a senior and not knowing your way and being like, I don't have it together, but I have this diploma coming soon. What advice do you have for folks who are developing their leadership skills or even utilizing their experiences to go after that dream job?
I would just say, as a recent college student, I would go back, and if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would definitely try to develop my relationships with all of my teachers. They just help you grow so much, like as a person, and then also they make you more confident in your knowledge and your skills, just because now you not only know more about the class, but also you've built a network pretty much of people and they help you get internships, they help you get jobs, and it's really important to do that each year, because each year your network can grow. And that's something that I would definitely go back and do all over again if I was to do college again. So, and you can grow, that way.
I would say that if you're holding a current leadership position in college, it sounds cliche, but lead by example. So share your knowledge, do what you say you're going to do, be the change that you want to see. So I think that's very important. And then also, like, let's say you're doing an internship, or it just could be the job that you have while you're in school. If you see a new skill that you want to learn, ask for the opportunity to learn that new skill. If you see someone that you want to learn from and want to learn more about what they do, ask your supervisor, hey, can I sit with that person for a little while and learn more about what they do? And then also, you spoke to this earlier, and that was talking about feedback. Ask your supervisor for regular feedback. They will appreciate that so much and really take notice of that. And I think if you do all those things, opportunities will open up for you.
Thank you for that perspective. But you are right. Asking for regular feedback, it's hard, but it helps develop you more, because like you may think you're doing the best job ever, but there might be a little tweak here and there that you haven't thought about that they're seeing that would make you excellent. So how can we continue to develop those leadership skills? My final question before I stop talking and like opening up once again for folks to ask questions. What advice do you have for women looking to enter the transportation field? And this is open to anybody.
I'll go. I mean, I guess it just goes back just to being confident, and just don't let it being a mainly male role intimidate you. You just do and act like you normally would, as if it was an all woman field, and just be yourself. I mean, be yourself is the main thing, and just to be confident in what you're doing and to have knowledge of what you're selling too, for sure.
I'll go next. I think one of the things that, may sound really funny, or fact that I'm a female, use the fact that you are a female and that you are talking to men on a daily basis. I talk to people all the time, and it's just, ask them about their day, ask them, things that other men to men conversation wouldn't happen, so that you can kind of get that foot in the door, build that rapport, and then be confident in yourself, know what you're talking about. And once you build that, it becomes really easy to talk to men on the phone, or be in a male dominant, field. Like I said, I'm in the bullpit with all the boys, and you know, other than the fact I am, girl, they don't talk to me any differently because I'm going to have the same kinds of conversations with them and learn their personalities, talk the way that they talk to make them feel more comfortable, make me feel more comfortable. And yeah, just don't let the fact that you're a woman in a male dominant area bring you down, you know, own it. I do. You know, I love the boys. They're I call them my children because they are a little bit younger than me, but the boys are great.
I can speak a little bit more just about in general for transportation in this town. When you think about Memphis and transportation, you think about FedEx, of course, and the reason FedEx is here is because we're a transportation hub because of everything that Memphis has, and they call it the 4 R's: runway, rail, road, and river. So there's plenty of opportunities in transportation besides just FedEx. And when you talk about opportunities for growth, smaller companies, there are ample opportunities for growth. And so that's something I would say when you're, looking for a position in transportation is don't just think about those big boys like the FedExes of the world. Consider other transportation companies because there's a wealth of them here in Memphis.
I would have to agree with that. One of the things that brought me to Paladin was the fact that it was a smaller company. And I didn't have any history in transportation. I just had it in sales, but the smaller companies, they put their time and effort and knowledge and leadership and everything into you. So don't be afraid of the smaller companies. I say this all the time, that the small and medium people of the world is, what keeps this economy going. So don't be afraid of those small and medium companies because they put a lot of effort into you.
I just want to add one thing to what Krista was saying. If you are looking at those smaller companies, when you go in and you're interviewing, don't be afraid to ask tough questions back to that person who's interviewing you. If you want to know what the growth opportunities are there, ask what the potential paths are for growth opportunities, and then ask where the company is going. Where do they see their vision for the company? And then you can figure out where your place or path could be within that. So, don't be afraid to ask those questions. And people, when you're getting interviewed and you ask questions like that, the company is going to take notice of that. And they want you to ask questions like that. That's really important when we interview people. We want them to have questions about the company.
Yeah, that was a big nugget for folks. Hopefully you were listening to that last nugget. Whenever you interview for a job, have questions. Show that you know a little bit about the company. Challenge us a little bit. Give us something different. We love a question that makes us sit back and be like, that's a good question. Because it shows that you're interested. It shows that you're critically thinking about things and you're serious about your future, especially possibly in that company. So big nugget, please always come to an interview with questions. So wanted to open it up one more time for students who may have a last minute question to ask the panelists. In the event you do have a question and we run out of time, their emails are available on Tiger Zone where you RSVP'd for the event. But you can always reach out to me and I will pass their emails along because you never know. These are great opportunities to connect with people and be like, hey, I saw you speak. Want to learn more about transportation. What opportunities do you have within your company? About to graduate, help, didn't know this was a field that I could look into. These are the folks that you want to speak to because they have a wealth of experience. So anyone have any last minute question that they would like to ask the panelists before I let you all go?
I don't really have a question, but this is just like a little funny thing that I always think about when I like think about women in transportation. My old hairdresser, she used to drive semi trucks, and she was so short that she had to sit on phone books because she couldn't reach the pedals. And so I always think about that.
That sounds like reality, especially for me as someone who's short. So yes, I love that. Anna or Carly, did you want to say something?
We've had a few women truck drivers on the intermodal side, and they are some of the hardest working drivers that I've ever worked with. So yeah, we love our women truck drivers for sure.
Any other last minute question for the panelists? All right, seeing none. Once again, if folks are interested in
Sheree, I have a question. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Abby.
Hey, so if we have family members interested in getting involved in into transportation, can we email you or give them your information? Obviously, it's a probably self-explanatory question, but I just wanted to ask that.
Yes, feel free to give them my email address, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn. Be happy to chat with them.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I do want to go ahead and thank our panelists one more time for taking the time to connect with us and speak more about your experiences, your company, and just your field overall, especially being a woman in transportation, which is, like we've talked about throughout this panel, a male dominant field, but y'all are flourishing. And we love a success story, and we love to see folks who look like us, within a field that sometimes we may not feel is for us. So thank y'all for doing that work. Thank you for being present within your field, and just making, strides for, the next generation of women who come behind you. So once again, if folks are looking to connect with them, their email addresses are available on Tiger Zone, but you can always reach out to me. And thank you all so much for attending. We're going to stick around for like 2 minutes. So if you want to ask a question, you just didn't want to ask it in front of everyone else, please feel free to stick around.